In this second part to video 14, I'm going to look at the procedure involved for a missed approach, or go-around as it is sometimes referred to. Now, it is important to realise that in order to undertake this procedure absolutely correctly, it is necessary to have accurate airport charts for the procedure involved, because each airport has a specific pattern for a missed approach, and it will have a specific waypoint or point at which the pilot can aim for in order to go into a hold in order to wait for further ATC instructions to make a reattempt at landing. In view of the fact that not everybody using FSX has access to these airport charts, I'm going to look at using the facilities of the FSX mapping system and the information that is held within the A320 MCDU or FMC database. I know that this will not be technically correct, but hopefully it will allow a missed approach to be carried out, a holding pattern if necessary undertaken, and then a return for a successful landing on the approach that was originally abandoned. I will use the same flight as in the video 14, so that will be a flight from Cardiff to Birmingham in the UK, and I will look only at the final stages of that flight once we are at or past the waypoint DTY, which is Daventry, as you will remember from video 14. So we will look at the aircraft in the final stages of the approach to Birmingham Airport when a decision is made, for whatever reason, to make a go-around. I am now passing close to the Brecon waypoint, BCN, and I'm climbing to the cruise level of 21,000 feet as in the previous video 14. Aircraft is now turning to the second leg to DTY Daventry. Still climbing to 21,000 feet at this moment. As in previous video 14, now reaching my top of climb, just passing through 20,000 feet, heading for 21,000 feet. Next waypoint is Daventry, DTY, which is 77 miles away. Top of descent point, this white arrow. Engines now throttling back for the cruise at 21,000 feet. Present speed 270. Okay, now reaching my top of descent point. I need to be at 13,300 at Daventry, which I have dialed in. Now going to left click to make that active. Engines decrease and I will begin my descent to Daventry. Descending now through 20,700, 50 miles to Daventry. Now, as I make my descent towards Daventry, which is just off the top of the map here, I just want to discuss one or two things about this particular video. You can see here that the FMC has calculated our route into the airport of my choice, which is Birmingham. So, I am going to make a wide sweeping turn, pick up the ILS and land on runway 33. Now, I am not 100% clear about the missed approach and the FMC MCDU. Occasionally when I've tried this, I have seen an extra route out of the other side of the airport in blue, which is a missed approach route. It would appear that the MCDU FMC has that in its database, but it does not happen all of the time. It is not showing on this map as I look at it now. So what I am going to do is I'm going to follow my normal approach line. I'm going to make the sweeping curve. I'm going to descend to around 2,000 feet, pick up the ILS, and as I reach the end of the runway near my touchdown point, probably about 500 feet above the ground, I'm going to go for a missed approach or go around. As I do not have at this moment a route to follow, and as normally I would be under the control of air traffic control who would guide me to where I need to be, I am going to make my missed approach as a continuation on the heading of the runway, turn right and come back to pick up this green line and then make my approach again. I appreciate that this is not perhaps technically correct, but until I find out the way of operating the MCDU in more detail, I do know that this system actually works and will enable you to operate a missed approach go-around if necessary. The aircraft is now making the left-hand turn just ahead of Daventry onto its calculated route for the intercept of the ILS, at which point I need to be at 2,000 feet. So I have now set 2,000 feet into the autopilot and left click the button. So I am now heading down to 2,000 feet, presently passing through 7,700. As I make this final turn and pick up my final route line, I want to look at a little more detail in the MCDU FMC. If I now click the Perf button, Performance, I have a Phase button. I am presently in descent. If I click Next Phase, I get to Approach. If I click Next Phase, I have Go Around. And in the Go Around, I have calculated speeds. 135, 171, 185, clean. When I decide to make a go around, I need to use these speeds because as I'm in my final approach, I will be flaps full, gear down, speed reducing to probably around this 135. When I then push the throttle levers fully forward for a go-around, these are the figures that I need to use during my climax. Now I think there is some way that this can be automated, but I've not yet found it. So I am going to use these as a speed reference and watch it manually and input these speeds if necessary into the autopilot. Okay, I'm now on the final leg. I have 2 or 3 waypoints here. One is called IBM 5-1 and Maple. The aircraft will turn to IBM 5-1 Maple and then the runway 33. I'm going to make the approach as normal here, and the ILS should now be visible. So if I click to LS and LS, I can see my localized bars and I can see my glide slope, and I'm below the glide slope, which is good, that's what I want. So I'm going to select localizer, and I'm going to watch my localizer bars, and I'm going to watch the glide slope diamond decreasing. When I know that I have captured both of those, that has just become now active, a full diamond. I'm going to watch for that to start to descend. Then I'm going to select approach, at which point the system will track both of them. At the moment I'm only tracking the localizer.
Right on Bravo and monitor down.
Okay, if I switch back to plan or arc for the moment, here is the airport. This is my final turn. I'm very close to the ILS.
2,500.
Going back to LS, and I'm going to select approach. The system will now track both of these instruments, the localizer and the glide slope. I'm now going to set flaps 1. My speed will reduce slightly to 170. Glide slope indicator is now centralized, waiting for the localizer to be intercepted to make my final right hand turn.
542 left, clear to land with this time. Clear to land 22 left, check with 4. Wind calm, or 2 left kilo, so please take off.
Localizer bars are moving, aircraft is turning.
Have a good day. Bravo heading departure, good day. Thank you. 203, wind is
Now I'm going to pause the flight for a moment once it has lined up and discuss what I'm going to do next. Now, as I said, this is not technically correct because I do not have all of the airport charts to be absolutely specific about this. However, I now know that the glide slope has been captured and the localizer has been captured. And I am presently at a setting of 2,000 feet. Now this is no longer being used as an altitude, because the system is now following the glide slope, and if the glide slope tells it that it should be at 1,500 feet, it will automatically descend to that altitude. However, I'm now going to assume that I'm going to make a go around, and I'm going to assume that the go around requires me to climb away from the airport to an altitude of 3,500 feet. I now need to dial in 3,500 feet. I'm not doing anything else but dialing it in. If and when I decide to make my go around, I am going to right click this button so that it becomes an active one, and if necessary I will set my climb altitude, my rate of climb, so that I take over from the autopilot manually to get myself away from the airport. I'm going to leave the heading as it is, so that if I could make the go around, I will continue on the heading of the runway. The speed is being controlled here by the autopilot and MCDU FMC. If I decide to make a go around, I am going to have to alter that speed. So I will right click it and dial in the speed that I want. Now there's a lot going on if and when I decide to make the go around. I'm going to push the throttles fully forward to the toga, take off go around position, retract the gear, retract the flaps as necessary, dial in a new speed and make sure that I reach 3,500 feet. At the same time, I am going to make a right hand turn to come back. So here is the airport in front of me. I'm going to climb away from it, turn and come back past the airport to pick up my ILS approach once more. Now it all happens quite quickly, so please watch and hopefully we will make a successful go around. Okay, I have now flaps 2 set. I have gear down. My speed is descending. I'm going to set flaps 3. My ILS bars are centralised. My glide slope is centralised. The runway is straight ahead of me.
1000.
Sorry, I had right-clicked that. I just left-clicked it to bring it back into the auto landing system. It's now got the dots. It's now trying to pick up the centre line of the runway.
Approaching 3.
Now this is an ideal situation for a go-around. I've made an error
500.
on my final approach. I am now too low because I am below the glide slope. I am at 400 feet. I decide to make a go-around.
300.
Push the levers straight forward, maximum power. Retract gear.
Too low.
Retract flaps, 1 notch.
Approaching 3.
Right
Too
click
high,
speed.
Too high.
Increase my speed to 185, 190 say. Reduce flaps. This is now flashing lever climb again. Bring the lever back to climb position. It says thrust climb. It's climbing to 3,500 feet. I'm heading 329. I want to turn. Dial in a new heading. The original heading was 330. I'm going to turn 90 degrees to that. So that will be at about 30 degrees or so. It's not critical at this moment. I'm bringing flaps back. I now have clean flaps. I am doing 192. I'm going to increase that to 200 knots. I'm going to adjust my heading. Further to around 120. So I have now safely climbed away from the airport and I am in a reverse procedure. Here is Birmingham Airport. I have successfully climbed away from it and turned. I'm now going back basically the way I came. On the replay we can see that we were almost at touchdown, decided to make a go around. Full power, gear up, flap retraction as required, speed increase, and then change our desired heading to turn away from the airport and go into a reverse direction route to re-pick up our ILS approach. We are now at our climbing out altitude from Birmingham Airport and making our turn to our next desired heading. Okay, I have now paused the flight. I'm a minute or two further ahead of the last shot. I'm stabilizing at around 200 knots and I'm heading at 150 degrees. I've altered that heading another 30 degrees from the last shot. I now need to look a little more detail at the FMC MCDU unit, and I've paused it so that we can study this a little more. You'll now see that I have a flight plan discontinuity. That is because I've overshot my intended landing spot, and therefore I'm basically in a new flight plan. I need to clear this flight plan discontinuity, and if you look in the main display, here is the routing that I attempted to make my approach on before. Here are those waypoints once again. Now at the moment I need to turn right to come back to that point. I'm going to clear this discontinuity. I have to do this with the program running, and I may travel a little further than I need to be. I'm going to enter that clear flight plan discontinuity. If you now look here, you can see that I have a dotted green line. I'm going to pause it once again. Okay, once I've cleared that discontinuity, the system puts in a new route. I need now to turn and pick up this new green route and make my approach again. Now I have travelled a little further than I would have liked. I would have liked to have been somewhere about here, and then if I selected the auto system, it would turn itself into this green line, follow it around and put me back on my approach. As I've passed it a little bit because of the talking and creating this video, I may have to turn to a heading manually to bring myself back to this green line, and then I will select the ILS and glide slope once again. Now I need to be at 2,000 feet at this point, so I'm going to alter my heading and my altitude manually to come back to this green dotted line area. So I'm going to dial in 2,000 feet and left click. I'm now starting my descent, and I'm going to amend my heading so I turn to the right to intercept the green route.
190. So 190, Delta 920.
I can amend the radius of view to see my route a little clearer. And I'm going to turn this heading again. I'm going to come right round. If you remember, the heading of the runway was 329.
2,500.
So I can come right round here. I'm going to reduce my speed as well.
Delta 926, turn right heading 090.
Put flaps 1.
Turn right, 090, Delta 926. Left gate, sliding 180. 180, they're heading left gate. Approach United 1662 with you 5,000 feet on the street. Left 1662.
Continuing to turn.
Good day.
I'm still trying to intercept that little green dotted line on my main display.
926, turn right heading 180.
A little bit further out than I had anticipated I would be. I'm going to reduce my speed once again. Flaps 2. I should now be able to re-intercept my ILS. LS switch here, LS switch here. There's my ILS bars. I am below the glide slope. Select localizer. The system will now pick up my localizer bars as before. If I switch back to the map, you can see, hopefully, I am now heading back towards this green area route. But I am now within the ILS system, so now all I need to do is to track it. If I press my speed, left click, the system will automatically reduce my speed to flaps now. When I see the activity of my glide slope, I will select approach once again. Now, as before, all this happens very quickly in the last sections of the flight. My ILS bars are now in line. I am at 2,000 feet. My speed is being held, and I am presently on flaps 2. Airport is now directly in front of me. I am watching this glide slope indicator. I'm going to select auto brakes medium. Presently doing about 135 knots, flaps 2. So I have now picked up once again my ILS approach, and I am back on track for a landing at Birmingham runway 33. Glide slope indicator is now going down. Select approach. Gear down. Now all is looking good. Glide slope is centering. ILS bars, localizer bars are centered. Speed now about 130. And I need to set full flaps for landing. Full flaps. Speed will reduce to around 125, which is the calculated NCDU speed for my landing. And now I listen for the altitude callouts and make a normal landing. Having done a missed approach and made a circle back to intercept the ILS.
1,000.
1,000 feet. This of course would be under ATC control under normal circumstances. I can see 2 aircraft waiting to approach the runway ahead of me. And hopefully they will stay where they are for my landing. Everything now looking good.
500.
500 feet.
400.
400 feet. Landing configuration.
300.
300 feet. If the aircraft moves on to the runway as it's doing, I'm going to ignore it in order for us to make this successful landing. This would be an ideal
200.
position to be in a go-around situation.
100. 70. 60. 50. 40. 30. 20.
Safely down at Birmingham. Engines back to idle. Spoilers down. turn off the runway at the next available exit. Welcome to Birmingham International Airport. All that is required now is to taxi to the gates. I hope that will have explained the principles of a missed approach and go around. Once again, I know it's not completely accurate, but it should be sufficient for you to be able to operate a go around.